Welcome you to Porch Talk. This is your host, Alan, and today we are at the Sunstroke House in Columbus, Mississippi. My guest is Sylvia Rose Novak. And so while we were preparing for the introduction for the show, we found an old acoustic guitar upstairs, and, well, it wouldn't hold a tune. We found another one, and the G-string broke while tuning. So Sylvia was kind enough to send me some tracks so we could share some music. And so here's a song called Little Sister. And after that, we'll jump immediately into the conversation.
You're coming in about as clear as a midnight show on an all-night station out of Mexico. Too much static in the attic and the signal's low, but I'm waiting here with nowhere to go. Little sister, I don't think I'm gonna make it. I've taken far too much to try and fake it. The desert's wide and cold, and every ounce I hold is gonna break it. Well, I can hear you clear enough to grab a couple words. There's something about blooming all in red-winged birds. I see the shadows dance in the low beam glow as I point them toward the border of Mexico. Little sister, I don't think I'm gonna make it. I've taken far too much to try and fake it. The desert's wide and cold, and every ounce I hold is gonna break it. Well, I can get a little jumpy when the signal's light. I got some cigarettes and a 45. I got a number in my wallet and a cracked window, and a price on my head in Mexico.
And so now we're in Columbus, and where to next?
Huntsville, back over to Alabama,
Okay,
and then we're in Alabama for a little bit, and then we head out to Texas through Louisiana.
great. And so, just music for you, when did that start? What did that look like? Was it mom and dad's records, or how did you get introduced to music?
My parents are both very musical people. Like, they're very into different types of music. My mom and dad both always sang. Always, like, not professionally, just around the house constantly.
In the car or whatever?
Yeah, all the time. And I guess I wanted to learn to play an instrument when I was a kid, like really little. I'd take my mom's like acoustic guitar and just mess with it.
Mm-hmm.
But my parents were really adamant that if I wanted to learn to play anything, I had to learn to play piano first,
Okay.
which was good.
Were you classically trained?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't play anymore. I have a 3/4 upright in my house, but it's one of those things as a kid, you're forced to do it to get to the thing you want to do. So I will sit down and mess with it sometimes, and I remember how to play, but it's not my passion.
Yeah, for sure. And so just talking about growing, where are you from?
Opelika, Alabama.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Right down the road. Birmingham, pretty much.
Yes. About, now we're in 45 minutes south.
Yeah. Okay. And just moving from there, after piano, where'd you go? Guitar?
No, well, kind of. I learned a little bit of acoustic guitar, but I wanted to learn to play bass. I was like 11 years old, maybe 12, and I told my dad I didn't want to play piano anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I had joined the middle school band on trombone, and I was reading bass clef, and I just wanted to learn to play the bass guitar.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad was great, supportive, and he was like, okay, but if you want to learn to play bass, you're really going to learn to play. So I started taking jazz and theory lessons on the bass. So I'm actually a jazz-trained bass player.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it was interesting, like tonight, just seeing some of the things I've seen on YouTube. It's probably 4 or 5 videos. You were playing a violin with Arkansas, and most everything else was a guitar. I had no idea you were a bassist.
Yeah, I became my own bassist after I'm really picky about bass players, obviously, because I am one, and then I finally just went, you know what? Nobody's going to play my bass lines better than me. And not to be like snotty about it, but they're mine, I wrote them.
Yeah.
So it made sense.
Okay, let's talk about the songwriting then. So, like, with your songwriting, how does that begin? Does it begin with a bass riff or words, or how's that start? Is it different with each song?
It's not really. I write the bass lines after I write the songs, pretty much. I write on an acoustic guitar,
Mm-hmm.
but I am one of those people who will have like a line. The song I was going to play before the string snapped.
Yeah.
The one I mentioned started with the line, "They call it fate, but it's not," and that just like sat in my brain for a couple days, and then within about 15 minutes I sat down and wrote the entire song.
I love it
write,
when that happens.
write music and lyrics all at once generally.
Yeah.
And that's my standard process. I'm not a big editor. If it doesn't all happen, it's not going to happen for me. That's just my method.
Yeah, sure.
But I think the song writes itself in my brain for a couple of days and then comes out, and I'm just kind of going about my life.
Yeah. To give a little background, we tried 2 guitars, and one just would not hold tune, and we found an old Alvarez, and while tuning it, the string snapped, and so, wasn't meant to be. But with that line, and for the rest of that song, where does that go? What was the song about?
Well, I was in Nashville, and by myself, kind of doing some industry stuff, like the handshaking, housekeeping, hobnobbing, elbow rubbing stuff that everybody has to do,
Mm-hmm.
or should do. I'm just going to throw that out there. If you're a musician and you don't go make connections and shake hands, you should. And I took myself to dinner, went and got a burger and a couple beers, and I walked out in East Nashville, and there was a homeless woman selling newspapers. And a lot of the time I will just I don't ignore homeless people. I can't. I have a very bleeding heart. So I had some cash in my wallet, and I walked over and I gave it to her.
Mm-hmm.
And she started talking to me, just like she wanted somebody to talk to. And she was totally, sober, coherent. And I stood and listened to her.
Mm-hmm.
And her life story, the way that she ended up homeless, basically was that her husband's mother was a cop, and she was a narc. That she was a dirty cop, so she was dealing.
Mm-hmm.
And this woman's husband took the fall for his mother so that she wouldn't go to federal prison because she was a narc who had become a dealer.
Mm-hmm.
And him getting incarcerated basically derailed their whole lives.
Yeah.
And that's what the song's about.
Cool. And so what's the name of the song?
It's called Dirty, and it'll be on my 4th record.
Great. And so let's back up a little bit. Opelika, born and raised?
Yes.
So when did you go up to Nashville?
I don't live there. I just go there sometimes to make connections. And
Okay.
actually, fun fact, a yoga teacher, and the yoga studio that sponsored my training is in Nashville.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yoga. I done that. I hurt my back, and they was wanting to do the shots and the surgery, and I was like, no, I'll do physical therapy. And then the physical therapist was a yoga enthusiast, and learned a couple positions that would help my back in proper form.
Yeah.
How to sit, and healed it.
I came to yoga because I was playing fiddle and violin with some other bands, like touring around before I started really doing my own thing. And it was wrecking my shoulders and my neck, like totally just destroying my back. And I was like, I gotta do something. And that was it. Yeah, found yoga.
That's with the homeless person. My favorite band out of Memphis. It's called Star and Micey, and Josh Cosby. He's one of the singers. There's two. He's the tenor. And how the band name was formed, it's crazy. You have a story like that. Is one day he got home, he was grabbing his guitar out of the back of the trunk, and a homeless person approached him. Hey, and he was just rushing on in to get into the apartment, and the guy just walked right up behind him, and he was at the door. And Josh just kind of freaked out, and he said, "What's going on?" He said, "Man, you got anything you can spare?" He said, "I don't have any money, but I'll play you a song." And they sat out there, and he played him a song, and after that, he shared, I'm Star, and my homeless girlfriend, her name's Micey. And after, that's the street name, And after sitting and exchanging stories, that became the band name. And so it's crazy how, those stories, they lead to band names, and they lead to really good songs. And so as you were learning fiddle, about what age were you?
23. I taught myself. I got bored and decided I wanted to learn to play. Took a couple lessons and was playing live within 8 months of picking it up.
Oh, wow.
I've done that. I play a lot of instruments. I'm like very multi-instrumental, so I wasn't like a fiddle prodigy or anything. I just
picked it and run with it.
Yeah, I played pedal steel. I've played banjo. The only thing I'm not very good at is electric guitar.
Okay.
Mandolin, fiddle, bass, upright bass, trombone, trumpet, clarinet. I'm taking drum lessons right now.
Yeah, that's something I always want to learn. My feet and my hands, I cannot get that straight.
It's tough. Limb independence is really hard. It makes me feel really dumb a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think them drummers, man, they're their own breed.
Don't say that loudly. He'll hear you. Blake will hear you. My drummer will.
Blow up.
Yeah, get a big head about it. We need to keep him humble.
All right, and so with the first album, when did that come out?
2014.
2014. And so what did that look like? Was it just you solo, or?
I wrote my first song in the winter of 2012 and decided that I wanted to make a record. I wrote the songs and I produced it. Whole thing, full band, kind of cobbled together, but I composed the bass lines and had another bassist play them because I was, I don't know, unconfident of my, I had never been in a studio before. Mm-hmm. And, except for playing fiddle on other people's stuff. And then I had a drummer come in and, I played the guitar parts, most of them, except for the lead, and then played the fiddle parts, and just composed and arranged and produced an entire record without knowing exactly what I was doing, but it turned out great.
Where was this done at?
It was done in Auburn, Alabama, in the back room of a guitar store. My friend, a good friend of mine, who's also a great bass player, he's an engineer, he's a great engineer, and he has this giant 1970s Trident console.
Yeah.
And we just did it there.
Cool. And so the guys that were coming in to play drums and play bass, were those just hired guns, or were those friends of the guy who had the place?
Friends of mine, and friends of his, and just whoever we knew.
Okay. And so after making that album, what did that look like? Were you working a part-time job or full-time job at the time?
I was training horses. I'm a horse trainer.
You're all over the place.
I don't like to sit still. But I just ride for fun now. I rarely train anymore. But I was training horses. Had my own little farm and trained problem horses. Not performance or anything, just green breaking, bucking issues, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm teaching riding lessons, and that's what I was doing.
And so after the album, was there putting together a tour, or what was all that about?
Not really. I just kind of didn't know what to do with it. I didn't put any press on it. It got some press, which was great. And I played some original shows and did some stuff with it, but I was still mostly making money off of music by playing fiddle with other people. Mm-hmm. That was still kind of what I did. Mm-hmm. And it was easy, and I didn't know any better. But in the meantime, I was working on my second album, which came out in 2016. and just, not to do anything with either, just to make it. Same thing, full band, produced it.
Same place?
Same place. And then the third album came out last year in 2018, and that one I did actually, work. That was the one that kind of started to do stuff for me.
Yeah.
But I recorded that one at Ol Elegante in Birmingham with Lester Newby, and, yeah, it was great. I had a blast. It got good press, and I hope that this fourth record, which is the one I've always wanted to make, it's funny, it's 4 records and
Finally getting to the one.
yeah, it's but it's only, if I think about it, you tell people 4 albums and they go, wow, that's a long time, and I'm like, first one came out in 2014, my 4th record will come out not even 6 years after the first one, so not really.
Yeah.
But this is the one I wanted to make, and it was a big learning curve, and a lot of people don't just plunge in, and I figured out why, but I'm glad I did it. I mean, can't go back, and there's no one right way.
Yeah. And so to going back to that first album, and with a show like tonight here at the Sunstroke, are we going to be looking at songs from the 3rd and 4th album, or is it going to be a compilation? Or
3rd and 4th, definitely. Definitely. I've grown up as a songwriter, and I'm not ashamed of anything. I'm actually very proud of the songs on my 1st and 2nd album. I don't look at any of those and, put my hand to my forehead. I'm not embarrassed. I still sell copies of my 1st and 2nd record, but...
What was some of the songs about? Was it introspective, or?
Not really. I hate writing about myself. I like writing stories.
Okay.
I will hide my feelings and my personal experiences in songs about other people. So, my first record, I had the lead-off track was pretty personal. I was in a weird relationship. Mm-hmm. Really, a couple of weird relationships. It was just strange. And, I was very jaded and, had been burned really badly. And, I wrote a song about how much I hated driving Highway 280, basically. Because that was the road between me and this person I wrote the song about. And every time I had to drive that stupid highway...
Think about him.
Or it's just a really awful highway to drive, and I'd cuss because I was like, why am I doing this? But some of the songs are just stories. I wrote a song about meeting the devil in Texas and dancing with him on a dirt road. And there's a song about stalking and murder that actually was inspired by an episode of the Squidbillies. I mean,
Cool.
Yeah. And then I have a song about my friend's divorce and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And so it's marching on. Is it still the same take? It's still stories and still not so introspective?
I wrote a couple of songs on my most recent, on this 4th album. One of them is called Dry. And I've become very candid about speaking up about mental health issues and advocating for the conversation around mental health, because I've said it before, I'm diagnosed type 2 bipolar. Mm-hmm. I'm very open about it because if I want other people who maybe think it's embarrassing or something to not feel the last thing you need to add to mental illness is embarrassment or stigma surrounding it. That's just the most dangerous thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
So that's a song about Dry is a song about my bipolar disorder, basically, and what it means. Not what it means to me, but it's a very aggressive song. It's very pointed, and it's very pointed at myself and some of the self-destructive behaviors that I use to self-medicate. Maybe there are some nights where I drink more than I should.
Yeah. Or
something like that, and it's a conversation with myself about learning to quell those habits before they become a problem.
Absolutely.
Because I want nothing more in this world than to be successful as a musician, to really to ride the lightning, AC/DC, to pull that line from him. But I just, it's kind of can I get there? Can I do what I want if I keep making mistakes, if I keep self-destructing? So sure. That's kind of the only one of those on the record. But
I'd like to chase that rabbit for a minute. As far as the diagnosis and figuring out you had it, how did that go?
Oh, I was lucky. I was a teenager, and it runs in my family. So my mom recognized
behavior,
and she dragged me kicking and screaming, literally, to a psychologist for a diagnosis, and then took me to a psychiatrist, and they medicated me. It worked for a little bit, stopped. Couldn't quite find anything that worked.
Yeah.
And even a lot of medication made it worse. So it's been years of admitting that I do have a mental illness, because a lot of the time it's just like, why am I acting this way, and why do I feel this way? And I finally kind of sat down with myself and went,
You got it.
your brain chemistry is different.
Mm-hmm.
Actually being able to admit that to myself and like be in like cognitive behavioral therapy, and like it's allowed me to kind of not like heal, because you don't ever get over it, but I've been a lot more gentle on myself since I finally was just like, look, brain, it's okay.
Yeah, chill out.
Yeah.
And I guess just for those listening, I mean, I like to highlight on this as much as you're willing to go. I mean, maybe just for those who have no idea that might be dealing with it. I mean, what are some of the symptoms or things you could look for as far as like this could be something? This
could be. A lot of people think that bipolar disorder is like rapid mood swings, but it's not.
A lot of people compare it to depression.
Not the type that I have.
Okay.
And that is the interesting thing. A lot of people who have bipolar disorder do tend to be mostly depressed. But they'll cycle in and out of it to like a little bit of like hypomania. It's like elated moods. It's rare. Most people don't do that. You know, we talked about the fact that I do everything. Like, I play all these instruments, and I train horses, and...
Just keep the mind.
I tend manic. My bipolar type is, like, don't sleep, forget to eat, racing thoughts, obsessive tendencies, just, like, motor mouth. You can tell I'm good at talking. Like, and it's actually been a gift as far as, like, this, like being a musician, like meeting people. I never don't have something to say.
Mm-hmm, sure.
But it's part of it. And then I stay kind of here. Like, you know, people can't see me, but like my hands up above my head. So like at 11.
Mm-hmm. Dimed out.
And it can get dangerous, because that can also turn into like mild like auditory and visual hallucinations. I've had to learn like, okay, this isn't real, it's okay. And then sometimes, very rarely, I do swing depressive, but I still have the manic tendencies. So the manic depressive episodes are actually the most dangerous.
Are you familiar with a bipolar rock and roller?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so he is one of the announcers for NXT. It's a wrestling. And I don't like wrestling. But if he's calling it, I'll watch it. But he has manic bipolar. He's that. And there's a documentary on Netflix of him, like, living with it. And, like, just him in his home with his friends, and, like, just the swings as he's going through.
It's interesting. I run. It helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it shows him, like, by himself, like, him just doing home recordings. It's almost like an autobiography documentary, but, like, him just going through, and it'll be like him just going through lines for, you know, whatever show he's about to do. And he'll probably go down as probably one of the greatest announcers that's done wrestling. I mean, he's electric.
Huh.
And
I'll have to watch that.
Yeah, check it out.
Yeah.
I think it speaks a lot for mental health and, like, people being aware of, like, bipolar.
Yeah, sometimes the people you think are just, like, super energetic, motivated, and friendly, like, yeah, we are.
Come off that way.
Yeah, I like
And
people.
are.
I love people. But something's different about my brain chemistry, and that's okay.
Yeah. To dig off into your songwriting again, what's your favorite song that you've written that you just love to play that just never you never get tired of? Have you got one of them?
I write so many songs that they change.
Yeah, it
But,
fluctuates.
like, right now, for this record, it is probably, well, because it's the most recent song I wrote, it's probably Dirty, the song about that I was going to do. But I have a few. I mean, like, I'm just so excited about this album in general.
Yeah.
That, like, I'm like, I love this song, and this song, and this song.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Cool. All right. Was anything else you wanted to do with bipolar? Move on?
I mean, no. I will say that I do, on my website, sylviarosenovak.com, have, like, a mental health link where anybody at all can send me a contact form. It goes directly to my inbox if they just want to talk or like have questions or need to reach out, because I've lost a few friends to suicide. And I feel like sometimes there's just a moment where people don't feel like they can talk.
Yeah.
At all. They just like, I don't have anybody to reach out to, and I don't want to call a suicide hotline. I wanted to make sure that I at least did something to give people
An outlet.
An outlet. Like, you can talk to me. I'm not going to diagnose you because I'm not a psychologist, but like, I will listen. I will read your email and I will respond.
Yeah, man, it's the day that we live in, man. It feels a lot of times it feels like there's nothing but judgment coming from other people, even if it's a family member, and it may be, but I mean, it's good to get it off your chest,
Well,
for sure.
I'm not here to judge, just to listen. So anybody listening needs to talk. Anything. Had a bad day, need to write it in an email, hit send and forget about it, you can go to my website and click the mental health link and I'll get it.
Cool.
Yeah.
There you go, folks. All right, and I don't know, just over the years, just from Nashville and bouncing around touring, what are some of the best experiences you've had? Some of the moments that you'll never forget. It's like the high line, if you can muster some of them up.
I have had a few really good ones. I'll start with my most recent one, but I won't say names for this story. I was hanging out with a band, and we were bouncing around just bars, parties, whatever, and they were nice enough to let me tag along. And we ended up at a party that was hosted by like a very like currently famous like songwriter. And I was I had been drinking. I mean, we were safe. I've been Ubering and walking, and but I was in no shape to actually meet anybody of any like caliber. And he saw me. I don't know him. I didn't know the guy. And I saw him, and this man walks up to me, gets about 4 inches from my face, and stares me dead in the eyes for, I swear, at least 2 full minutes.
Trying to look in your soul or something?
Yeah, he did. He stared into my soul, and I, because I'm me, like, just, I didn't blink. I just stared right back. I was and I didn't say anything, so we just stared at one another for like 2 straight minutes. And then he walked away.
Didn't say nothing.
And didn't say a word. I'm so short that he was like crouching and just staring. And then he like walked away. And I was like looking around like, did anybody see? Yeah. And now I just like, I think about that. I'm like, so-and-so like stared into my soul. And I hope I never run into him again. I do. You know, I've made it very clear, like with the booking, I'm like, you do not pitch me to open for this man. He terrifies me. Yeah. He knows me now somehow. But another good one was I was playing fiddle in a band that was opening for Merle Haggard.
Oh, cool.
Unbelievable. I got to meet Merle Haggard, right? Like that was,
legend.
And he shook my hand. Unbelievable. Like I still can't believe it. But the best part was there was one green room for everybody. And I wandered in looking for a bathroom and found one. And when I walked out of the bathroom, Jeff Cook from Alabama.
Yeah, I know Jeff.
Was standing at the buffet table eating chicken fingers, and he blinked at me and went, "That's Merle's bathroom." And the only thing I could think to respond with was, "That explains why there's no toilet paper in there." And we talked for a minute, and he went, "Who's your favorite fiddle player?" And I said, "Bob Wills." And I was like, oh God, Jeff Cook's a fiddle player. You know, like, but it was funny. So Dwight Yoakam's fiddle player was there too. It was
man,
unbelievable.
Where was this at?
It was in Rainbow City, Alabama.
Okay.
Right, of course.
Makes sense.
In the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And they sit down on a couch, and they're like, "We got a good Bob Wills story." And I was like, "Do you?" So I basically sit down at the feet of Jeff Cook and Dwight Yoakam's fiddle player and like look at them like a child who's being told a story. And the story is amazing. Basically, I'll make it short. Bob Wills was on stage and he was drunk. Shocker, like that. And so, you know, he had a couple of his like second and third fiddlers like propping him up. And he kept leaning over his shoulder and yelling, "Socks, socks, socks." And they were like, "Bob Wills thinks this sucks." They thought he was like, "Sucks, this sucks."
Yeah, he was saying socks.
He was saying socks. They got him back, and they were like, I don't know what we're doing wrong, but they got him back to his dressing room. He kicks off his boots, and his socks have come undone in his boots. Like, they've balled up in the toe. But this band is freaking out because they're like, we're all about to get fired. Like, Bob Wills is screaming that we suck.
Yeah.
But it's Texas, so it all sounds the same. And I just loved that story. I tell it better after I've had some Jameson. And after about 10 minutes. A lot of lead up. But, yeah. So that was really, really cool. So, very fortunate to have met Merle Haggard and like got to spend time talking to two really killer fiddle players.
Absolutely.
So,
I grew up listening to Alabama.
Yeah.
I love those guys.
It was a great.
If you're gonna play in Texas, you gotta have a fiddle, right? That's one of their lines.
It was a great moment for me. But yeah, and also this other like one day he will be so famous that I can tell the story and include his name. Or he'll become obscure, and I will be able to include his name. I'll tell you who it is when we stop recording. But
okay.
Yeah, that too. That's my most recent. Like, did that just happen?
Yeah.
It did.
Well, let's go here for a second. As far as influence for your songwriting and just who you enjoy listening to while you're making these road trips, who are some of your favorite artists?
This is like so like hipster, but I love old Jason Isbell. Like adore. Like I've got the Here We Rest album cover tattooed on my back.
Okay.
Yeah. He is one of the most. He was so tremendously underrated when he was first starting into his solo stuff.
Yeah, right after Drive By.
His turn of phrase and like the way that he, I don't know, it was like effortless and unpretentious, but also really brilliant. He's just a tremendously brilliant writer.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
But it's not contrived. And I'm so influenced and inspired by him, even though I've gone back to like listening to like the pop punk bands I loved in high school, basically.
Who are some of those guys?
Oh, I loved like Jimmy Eat World, Brand New, Taking Back Sunday.
Listen to Brand New today.
Paramore. Yeah, love it. That's like my thing. But as far as songwriting, and actually Jim Adkins from Jimmy Eat World, great songwriter.
He is.
Really tremendously talented, and that's why this fourth album of mine is more rock and roll oriented, because I used to think there was like this disconnect. Like if you were a songwriter, you didn't play rock and roll. Yeah. But I love rock music. Like my favorite band is Pearl Jam.
Okay.
Favorite band of all
Eddie
time.
Vedder?
Yeah. I love Eddie Vedder, and I love Jeff Ament, the bass player for Pearl Jam, is one of my biggest influences. Okay. As a bassist.
Okay.
And I was just like, you know what? They're not mutually exclusive. There are rock bands with amazing lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
So,
they are.
But yeah, so Jason Isbell definitely for songwriting. And I like rock bands. I like pop punk. I like a lot of stuff. But I also love Leonard Cohen.
Okay.
Like, I was devastated when he died. So I'm all over the place, but yeah.
Cool. All right, just for those listening, we'll get ready to walk this thing on out the door. Ways to connect with you, social media, ways to get your music, way to hear you, If
you look up Sylvia Rose Novak on Google or Facebook or Instagram or Spotify, iTunes. Please buy my music. Spotify doesn't pay me anything. My distributor gets it all the pennies that Spotify pays musicians. Yeah. But yeah, you look me up, I'm there. I'm actually very friendly too, so you don't have to watch from afar. You can reach out and say, "Hey, I like your stuff," and I'll probably say thank you for telling me that.
Yeah. Well, great. Anything else you want to add before we go?
Oh no, I could talk for a year. So.
Well, great, Sylvia. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
News and notes. Thank you so much for listening to Porch Talk. I'd ask if you hadn't done so already, if you would rate and review the show on whatever platform it is that you listen to it on. Subscribe, leave a comment. Follow us on social media. That's a great way to keep up with what we got going on with some of the videos of episodes gone by. Jamie, thank you so much for setting us up. The show that night was great. If you have not seen Sylvia Rose Novak, I would recommend going to her website or following her on social media so you can figure out when she's going to be near you and go catch that show. You won't regret it. And go to her website, sylviarosenovak.com, and get a t-shirt or get you an album. Support your artist. That's going to do it. we're going to walk this thing right out the door. This is a song called Bad Luck.
Chin up, baby, it's gone before you know. Like the shoreline to the ocean or the flowers to the snow. It's nothing but a shadow, it's nothing but a dream. And if that makes you wanna scream, then scream. And cheer up, baby, but don't you get too high. You're a star like a firework in July. Some people call it magic, some people call it fate. But me, I think we're all just born too late. Nothing's bad luck, is it? No. Nothing's bad luck, is it? No. Nothing's bad luck, is it? Anymore. Wake up, baby, you're talking in your sleep. Of shoes and ships and sealing wax and wolves among the sheep. You're running from the future, you're hiding from the past. At least we know these nightmares don't last. But nothing